The FNRad Snowboard Podcast is presented by Vans. Season 8 of FNRad is sponsored by Wired Snowboards, Anon Optics, the Boardroom Snowboard Shop, FindAnEpicAgent.com, and Tribute Board Shop in Nelson, BC. Wired Snowboards is kicking ass. Devin Walsh is on the team, and his 2023 Wired Pro model is awesome. I love the solid feel of the carbon reinforcement right out of the box. Buy a Wired Devin at an authorized dealer near you, or hop on wiredsnowboards.com and design a one-of-a-kind custom-built snowboard, hand-built right here in beautiful East Vancouver, BC, in one of the world's most carbon-neutral snowboard factories. Please like, follow, and share FNRad so we can build on our following and make more great content. Hit pause right now. Tell someone you know about the show. Thank you very much. Support also comes from Dakine, Mount Seymour, Grouse Mountain, Pro Standard GoPro accessories, and Volcom Outerwear. Thanks to everyone who supports the show. Before I start the show, I want to mention the Blaise Boot Camp Winter Gathering in Bear Valley, California. There will be 2 sessions in March 2023. Go to highcascade.com to sign up. And special thanks to Spring Break Snowboards, Union Bindings, Cole Headwear, and Air Blaster for supporting this episode featuring Blaise Rosenthal. Please check out these amazing companies doing FNRad things. Blaise Rosenthal is a prolific pro snowboarder who was prominently featured in Kingpin's Destroyer and the Revival movies. Blaise was also featured in MacDog's Stomping Grounds and Simple Pleasures, with full parts amongst the heaviest of progressive heavies at the time, Devin, Ingemar, Peter, and a handful of others. Blaise left pro snowboarding to start and manage M3 Snowboards, and then became a successful fine artist before being pulled back into the snowboarding lifestyle. I met up with him for our first in-person interview in Government Camp, the small village at the foot of Mount Hood. His charisma and unassuming demeanor, partnered with his timeless style on a snowboard, has landed him a pro model on Corey Smith's Spring Break team. He was filming at Hood for his latest project, Midlife Crisis, and his Switch 7, which he stomped around the time we recorded, is still legit by anybody's standards. It was an honor to record with one of snowboarding's most passionate pros, Blaise Rosenthal, at the Summer Mecca Timberline Lodge at Mount Hood.
First year I came here in the capacity of lurker, which is you come to Government Camp because you love snowboarding and you want to be around in the summer. You just come hang out and see what happens. And mostly what happens is you're told you're not allowed to ride anything. And you hang out and try to be nice. And if you're, nice enough and helpful enough and you get lucky, then someone lets you dig to ride, or, you get to ride the pipe or whatever jumps they have. Back then, it was a bunch of camps and everyone had their own stuff. And maybe if you're even nicer, you get to work in the kitchen a little bit and eat food,
Making sandwiches.
Whatever, yeah. Whatever trays of food everyone's eating. And then if you get even luckier, you get to be a coach. So,
yeah.
And I did all that stuff.
So what camp would it have been in 92?
92, I came just like full lurker, no camp, nothing. I just bought a season pass, and that was like a luxury because the next year I came without one.
Yeah.
But I just went up on the hill every day, and every day at the end when the chairs closed, I think it was 1:30 back then too, not 2 like it is now. Just roll over to one of the camps and just try to look, kind of friendly and kind of sad and kind of helpful at the same time.
Yeah.
And yeah, if you're lucky, whatever, head digger would say, yeah, all right, slip the pipe 5 times and help us, clean it up after, and then you can ride with us. So you'd hike the pipe for the extra hour and a half or 2.5 hours and then clean it all up at the end. And that's the other thing. I think they let you stay on the mountain till 4 back then. Now it's 3, so that's a little different too. So the chairs open longer, but then everything shuts down an hour earlier. So
this year I was, baffled by the idea that at the ticket window here in guest services, I could buy access to the High Cascade Park, which I thought we had access to because we were guests of High Cascade.
Right.
But it's run by Timberline now.
Yeah, there is no High Cascade. There's no Camp Park now.
That happened this. Oh, well, we haven't been here. Yeah, we haven't been here for 3 years.
Yeah, I came last year.
Yeah.
And that was my first season back after a bit of a break. And it's called the FTC, like the Freestyle Training Center, and I guess you pay extra to do that.
About $30 a day.
Yeah, I don't know. I know with the camp it comes on the ticket, so I always just get it on the ticket. But I mean, and it's kind of a bummer that there's ever anything that not everyone's allowed to enjoy, but I guess that's life. And like the reality of it is that the public park is really so fun that, you know, I think like you can come here in the summer and just buy the straight ticket and have a great time. Like,
oh,
there's
hell
so
yeah.
much to ride. So.
Yeah, you see those lurkers now. They've moved up from Govey. Sometimes they'll live in their van up here by the the lodge, use the bathrooms here, sneak in. That doesn't happen, but yeah. And you know, bumming passes, walking up, you know, hoping to get that digger job, hoping to get a food job.
Right.
A lot of times when I'm talking to them, they just got fired from something.
Yeah, that seems to be a common thing, is a lot of firing, a lot of short stints.
Totally.
So,
yeah, get a check. Yeah, I don't really need to work anymore.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what that is.
Yeah. Well, I was just outside getting the memory cards for the cameras.
Right.
And I could see the Milky Way. I was like, this place is magical.
Oh, it's absolutely beautiful.
I was speaking with you
special place.
earlier on that coming here for Wendell's camp, which is, listeners will know the story.
I call it High Cascade, by the way, because
right.
that was when I was here in the past. High Cascade to me was always the like coolest camp.
Yes.
And it was the one that I worked for, was the one that, you know, and then at some point they merged. And of course Wendell's was probably cool too. But High Cascade was definitely my like affiliation.
I got you.
And that was the one I wanted to be at, and that was, you know,
Yeah, well, I live in Canada, so I should have gone to Blackcomb. I loved Craig Kelly.
Right.
But I rode at a Checker Pig demo up a chairlift with Tim Wendell.
Oh yeah.
Told him I was going to Craig Kelly's camp, which I wasn't. I just told him that's what I wanted to do, and he said, "Don't go there. It sucks. Come down to Mount Hood." And then I told my parents that I'd been invited by Tim Wendell. He'd noticed how good I was, which was not what it was.
Probably wasn't giving you a discount though.
No, but it was $399 for 7 days.
Oh yeah, that's a good price.
Yeah, it's great.
I think, you know, the only thing about Wendell's that probably ever bothered me, because it was awesome. I remember riding there too, and they each had their own lane. I never liked things like named after the person, like a snowboard brand, like, you know, like Burton or Sims, like Lamar. All of that, like Lamar, any of it, right? And Wendell's, and I mean, it's ironic because we're doing a camp now and it has my name on it, but like, I guess there's a little bit different of a story about how that came about, so it feels maybe a little different, but I think that's all it was. Like High Cascade's just this different thing. It's not. Yeah.
Their branding was always really good too. Little mushroom guy or marshmallow guy, and
I mean, this was way pre-marshmallow, but
but they had wooden ramps in town. They were like, it was like the flagship.
It was
one,
and now it's all one thing, and so there's no need to.
And Wendell's went to just all ski. They were like, at one point.
Did it?
Yeah. So it was like Wendell's offered free skiing and snowboarding coaching.
Okay.
High Cascade never did.
Right.
And so then they just split them and said, okay, all snowboarding is going to be High Cascade. All ski will be Wendell. Okay. And I asked Tim about it. We're going to interview Tim again tomorrow.
Okay.
And he said, what the fuck do I care?
Yeah.
I
that's
skied
what I'd
when I was a kid. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I skied too, but skiing's not snowboarding.
Oh, God. You might be the most... I don't want to say patriotic, that's not what it is. Most dedicated snowboarder that I've ever talked to. And I've talked about 200 pro snowboarders and guys like Ernie DeLost and Chuck Barfoot and there are people who get it. And Jamie Salter. Let's put it, we'll go all the way to the other side of the scale. Jamie Salter doesn't understand snowboarding and doesn't care to.
Yeah, I wouldn't expect he does.
I feel like you have somehow internalized snowboarding, that it is something more than just what most people see. It's something more to you than that.
I mean, it's certainly a very big part of my life. It's certainly given me a life. Most of the good parts of my life have come from snowboarding. People I've met, including my wife, who I met snowboarding for 32 years ago. So
Wow, congrats.
Yeah, like my first year snowboarding. I mean, honestly, like I came up from pretty humble beginnings, and so there wasn't, snowboarding, everything I have came from that. So yeah, it means a lot to me. And that doesn't just mean like money that I made or stuff that I bought, like every aspect of confidence and accomplishment and, just personal satisfaction with life came from it. So yeah.
Yeah, you said something today that I've thought, I don't know that I've ever said it out loud. How can you go away from it? Like, how can you be, like, how can you switch to, and people switch to all kinds of crazy stuff.
Sure.
That they take snowboarding to a high level, and
Sure.
what, I want to ride mountain bikes, or
Right,
I wanna,
right.
which is fine
Yeah.
in theory, but to me, I just don't understand it.
I don't either. And I think, what we were talking about is people who are like, oh, they were a pro snowboarder and now they're professional fishermen, or they're right. You say like they're really into mountain biking. There's a lot of fun stuff to do. I don't want to knock anything specifically, but I don't like, I took a long break. I took 12 years off and I didn't snowboard that much.
Wow.
And that was mental. That was like being a professional snowboarder, and snowboarding loves you, and then you get older and snowboarding doesn't love you in the same way. It hurts your feelings, and it was painful, and I needed to sort of stay away from it I'd like to say to protect myself, but maybe it was misguided. Regardless, it was what I did. But there wasn't anything else I replaced it with. I just was miserable. I mean, I make art and I painted a lot and I love making art, but like, it's still not the same thing as snowboarding. And like, there was no other activity, and I tried a lot of stuff. Played a bunch of tennis. I like that. Surfed a bunch. I like that. Drank a bunch of wine. That was nice. None of it's snowboarding. Not all of it's good for you, So I don't get how you would be active and able.
Right.
Like, I get it that some people's knees wear out.
Yeah.
I get it that some people, their back gets hurt or just whatever, and they can't do it. I don't get the people who are like, yeah, I was a pro and now I ride mountain bikes all the time. Again, someone's going to hate me for saying it, and I don't want to be the guy that is criticizing something, but it's just not as fun as snowboarding is.
Snowboarding taught me so many things about myself, lessons, like how I wanted to be in the world, how I wanted to be in life, right?
Yeah.
And then there were some negative ones in there too. Like I had a hate on for skiing, like kind of feel like the fact that I'm a virgin to skiing, like I just never did it.
Oh yeah.
Gave me
I
some
skied.
form of, I had some sort of card of like I'm only a snowboarder.
Sure.
And now, when someone will say, like Annie Boulanger, she's like, yeah, I ski now too.
Yeah, that blows my mind.
I'm like, how?
Yeah, that's how, and I feel the same way.
How?
And I never hated skiing. I like to think that I'm a person with a very open mind.
Good. Yeah.
I feel that I am that way about most things. I like, I like different stuff. I like different people. I like different food. I like traveling. I like different places. It doesn't all have to be a certain way. I think what sort of turned me off about skiing the most, because I skied and it was fun. We were skaters and, skateboarders, and we got a chance to go skiing now and then, and it was fun. You'd go and try to do daffies, which felt like doing an airwalk off a launch ramp or whatever.
Get rad.
You were sliding around. It was great. But when we saw snowboarding, it was like, I clearly want to do that more.
Yeah.
It just made more sense in relation to our other, sort of parts of our identity and what we were into, my friends and I, my friend Leaf and other buddies, my buddy Jake. And I always like to think like I'm open-minded. If people are sliding on snow, that's positive. If people are happy and they're having fun, everyone's getting along, no problem, right? And I still definitely believe that. But I guess I worked for a ski company for a long time, and I worked in their snowboard part of their ski company. And this was a post, pro career thing that I was, sort of fell into because I've always been sort of, I guess, what people call creative, although I think that word's kind of problematic. But I've always been someone that likes to engage in that sort of, visual art and, structuring a brand identity and whatever. And so I worked for them doing this for their brand. And I just watched how, as snowboarding sort of declined in the 2000s, how the skiers just seemed to relish that, how the skiers that ran this whole thing just seemed to love being like, oh, snowboarding's not doing so great, is it? And, I feel like if it wasn't for snowboarding, skiing would be dead. No one, people weren't skiing.
Absolutely.
People weren't skiing. Skiing was a thing that a dentist drove his BMW up. It was for rich people. It was super elite. Normal people were not going to the mountains.
It was like swimming lessons too. Like, what level are you?
Yeah,
what are you
so
working
formal,
on?
man, and boring. That doesn't mean there weren't rippers. There were like Scott Schmidt and Glenn Blake. There were dudes doing it. Yeah. But they were super limited and they were really sort of on their own. There weren't parks. There wasn't anything.
The equipment sucked.
Yeah, sure.
They couldn't even
did.
ride powder, right? They couldn't ride powder.
I mean, they could.
Actually,
those guys, it was amazing, I'm sure, what they did, but
yeah,
they were doing it without
proper tools.
Yeah, so.
And then snowboarding gave the tools there.
Well, snowboarding gave a culture that was accessible.
Yes.
It's, forget the snowboards sucked too. They were heavy and broke and, things were not great, but Kurt Heine just did a talk for the boot camp that we did here with High Cascade, and he brought out his old Sims board, and it weighed 1,000 pounds, and it the bindings were all broken and zip tied together and whatever.
Yep.
And so the board sucked, but it gave a culture that a more democratizing culture, a culture that you didn't have to be an upper class person who drives a BMW and eats Grey Poupon to enjoy.
Right.
You could be a regular guy who loved skateboarding and you can drive up and sleep in your car and clip a ticket and just whatever.
Yeah.
And then it borrowed from street culture, from skateboarding, and then skiing adopted all that, and then free skiing sort of is born. And is that bad? It's not bad, but it's derivative. It owes everything to snowboarding.
Right.
Without snowboarding, none of that culture ever comes to skiing.
That energy that you are talking about, I saw it at a lodge I was a guest at, a heli lodge.
Mm-hmm.
Now, a heli lodge, you're paying $15,000 to be there for 5 days.
Right.
It's a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
I was a guest there, and thank you, Tess, for putting me up and giving me free access to helicopter skiing.
Nice.
Unfucking believable. But the guides were anti-snowboard. So they would stop places where we'd have to post hole, which if you talk about that with like someone who's a professional guide, that's endangering the group.
Sure.
Just to take the piss out of snowboarders a little bit.
Well,
it's crazy.
And that's the thing that I resented so much, was that here's this thing that gave me everything I have, this culture, this activity, this industry, and then suddenly, as it's going down, you're declining, and it shrank a lot. It was a big growth period in the 90s and late 90s especially, and then it sort of started folding in on itself, and now I think it's actually doing really well again. It seems like everyone wants to snowboard again, which I love seeing, but when that shift happened, seeing these skiers sort of just seeing the gleam in their eye and seeing how they would kind of sarcastically say things to me, it just made me hate them for it. It's like this sport that you're kind of mocking saved your whole industry.
The whole thing.
You're a ski company with a ski factory and a snowboard factory, and you would have nothing left anymore if all these creative kids didn't drive up in their crappy cars, sleep in the parking lot, and go invent snowboarding and make it what it is, you know? And I couldn't get over that. And so now I hate skiing, basically. And I understand. My 8-year-old skis because it's easier for kids to learn to ski. I don't really hate skiing. But I think it's it's a super derivative culture that owes everything to snowboarding and should be a little more respectful.
I would agree with you there.
Yeah.
I had a realization at a skate park because I was active in the skateboard community. We would go to city hall meetings and say, like, look, there's this many kids and they got nowhere to go. They're out in the street. You want to build them a park. It's not the 80s anymore. We're in the 2000s. It's time to, like, build a skate park, for Christ's sake. So then they'd say, sure. And then the communities would come out and say, not in our, we don't want that riffraff around here, right? Like, so I put, like, heart and soul into getting a park made. And then I'm at the park, and there's all these scooter kids, and they've got cups of Slurpee, and they're spitting on things. Right. And I've actually found myself taking some kids aside and saying, look, it's a skate park. It says on the sign, skate park. Right. Okay? And then I got home and realized it's a ski hill. Right? Like, it's the same energy. Right. Yeah. That's what we were to these
No, we
people.
don't want to keep anyone out.
Right.
We don't want to discourage anyone from doing something positive. I totally, and like, look, man, some people rollerblade, and that's fine. Yeah. It's totally fine. Yeah. Although, I will say, I've never had rollerbladers tell me that my sport wasn't cool. And I have had skiers say it. So, like, I almost think rollerblading is far more hardcore than skiing.
Hey, you could be hardcore to anything.
Sure. But I mean, in general, like, if you're a rollerblader these days, you're pretty committed. Yeah. So that's cool.
Shout out Chris Savage.
Yeah,
he
I don't know.
He skates, he rollerblades, he runs the park up at Seymour.
Oh, nice.
And he does it unapologetically, which I think you should, man.
Good. Be you, right.
Yeah, it's fucking sick.
I just really like snowboarding, and when people are critical of it, or when people, want to bring it down, it's like, I feel defensive.
It felt like an addiction. Like, I heard Rankwit talk about it. I asked Rankwit, are you glad that you were a skateboarder or snowboarder? He's like, no. I wish I would have been a professional something. Like, I feel like I wasted my life doing this thing that, like, you can't make any money from it.
So what?
Exactly.
So what?
Maybe I'm adding the can't make any money from it. I think he felt like it took him away from a life that would maybe be a little more financially stable.
So what? For what? In exchange for what? What do you buy that's better than going snowboarding?
Nothing.
I can't buy anything. I tried.
Yeah.
There's nothing.
Yeah.
I don't care about a car or a watch.
Right.
I don't care about any, like, I mean, of course I need food and I want to be comfortable.
Yeah.
But I'm up here for the summer. I lose money coming here.
Right.
By the time I put my kids in, my kids in childcare and I fly up and everything, like, we don't get paid that well to do this.
Right.
We're all here because we love it. And like, I'm here to be here and snowboard. That's what I want to do.
Yeah.
Like,
would you agree it's addicting? Like, there's something about it. You think about it when you're not doing it?
I feel like addiction is generally a term that implies some kind of sort of, detrimental aspect to something that you can't resist. I don't see the downside of snowboarding. So it's not addicting, it's fulfilling. And so you go after it,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I left it for a while. Not because of your circumstances.
Yeah.
I had kids, and I thought to be a good dad meant to grow up.
Sure.
And a lot of listeners go through that.
Yeah.
And reach out and say, hey, you know what? I've been listening to your podcast. I got to get back out there. Because you give it up, you think the kids are more important. It's a lot of...
Sure.
It's a hell of a lot of hassle to bring the kids. You're not snowboarding.
Well, I mean, it depends. I mean, that's part of the reason my 8-year-old skis at this point. And I have a 19-year-old too, and he started on skis, and then when he was ready, transitioned. Now he snowboards, and Gus will snowboard as well very soon, and he knows it, and he's talking about it.
Sick.
But the thing is, part of parenting is sacrifice, and that's giving up some of the things we love. Part of it is being a role model, and I fail at parenting just as much as anyone. I fail at everything just as much as anything. But when I succeed at things, I also, try to recognize that. And like, if you're showing somebody that you can be a grown-up that has fun and does something well, and they feel like they have something they can, aspire to, that's not a negative thing. And there's, I know dads. There's one I ride with up here somewhat frequently, and also lives in Tahoe, and hopefully we'll ride together more there. And he's a ripper, and he's so devoted to his kids, and he's so about them snowboarding all the time. And I love seeing that. That's admirable. But he also, I'm trying to tell him, like, look, dude, your kid's going to be stoked to know his dad can do a 540, because he can do a 540 even without trying and not snowboarding all the time. And like, that's also a gift you can give your children.
100%.
Yeah, that respecting their parents and recognizing that it's okay to be a grown-up and still have a good time.
Yeah.
Your life isn't over.
Yeah, it was over for me.
Yeah.
It
Sure.
was a self-inflicted barren wasteland, no snowboarding.
Yeah.
And then once I came back to it, it was so obvious that I'm a better dad if I'm a happier person.
You're better dad if you're happier. You
Yeah.
have something worthwhile to share with your kids.
Totally.
You can be someone that like they can look up to for, you know,
Yeah.
answers and
Yeah.
be curious about your culture. And I mean, I take my kid out and he's like, "Give me the phone. I'm going to film you now." And I'm like,
Sick.
"Yeah, all right. You want to go sit on the knuckle? Be careful. Stay on the side."
Yeah.
And he'll be like, "All right, Dad, but you got to do a 720." And I'm like, "What? It's like 10 in the morning. The jump's still hard. I'm not ready for that yet." And he gives me a hard time about it. But like, he knows that Dad's going to go for it. And
dope.
he wants to push me. And he enjoys knowing that I can do something that he thinks is cool.
Absolutely.
And not that I'm just there to make his macaroni and, you know, give him a shower or a bath at night.
Right,
you know,
right.
so.
As parents, you go through this awful thing, and it's quite lonely, because if we, as friends, if I was like, "Come wipe my butt," you would be like, "That's not my friend anymore."
I mean, maybe in 40 years when it's necessary,
Yeah, sure.
you know. But no,
Sure.
right. Hopefully we can
Kids
afford to
talk
pay
to you
someone else at that
like
point.
you're not human. And
I mean,
they can be demanding,
yeah.
and you could get them exactly what they
Sure.
want, and they could not appreciate it.
Right.
And you go through this life with your kids sometimes where you're just like, "Is anyone else seeing this? This
Yeah.
is like I'm a nothing here."
I mean, there's a lot of self-effacement that happens through parenting, and that's
Yeah.
part of it, because you
Yeah.
have to make space for your children to become who they're going to be, right? And that's not easy for me. I have a lot of ideas and opinions,
Yeah.
and I like to, you know, think about how they should be too, and you have to sort of find a balance there.
My kids are old now. Well,
Yeah.
you said your oldest is 19.
Our oldest is 19, yeah. and
So
then
my youngest is 19.
Yeah,
Oldest
okay.
is
Oh, wow.
23.
Okay,
And
yeah.
they're very independent, and at this point, watching them is fascinating to me.
Yeah.
Because they're finding their passion outside of. I gave them. I brought them to the mountain. I
Yeah.
gave them snowboarding, the
Mhm.
gift of, you know. So I wanted them to have that as
Sure.
a foundation, and it's amazing to see my daughter go out with her friends. Not with Dad.
Right.
And what
Yeah,
are we gonna
yeah.
do? Hey, my dad can get us tickets to Grouse. Let's go to Grouse. That'd be so much fun.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, no, that's cool. Yeah, my 19-year-old snowboards, and he's actually, you know, because we lived in Santa Cruz for the last 20 years, and so he surfs a lot more, and he's a really good surfer, and you know, gets flowed by local reps and just does great in contests, and he's excellent. But snowboarding, and he snowboards pretty well for a guy that doesn't get up there that much. He'll show me clips and be like, "Look, Dad," and like, I'm doing, and he's doing stuff. He's doing a 270 on, he's front boarding things, whatever.
Sick.
It's like, man, he snowboarded 4 times this year and 4 times last, like,
Yeah.
but he's still not better than I am. Not even
love
close,
it.
right?
I love it.
So and he's a way better surfer. Like, I can't even,
Yes.
pretend to surf anything like he does. So it's interesting, because
Yeah.
part of it is like I'm proud and impressed, and then part of it is I still kind of have that where I can be
Right.
like, look, and
It's almost nicer. When I was a young, really hungry snowboarder, I was like, I don't want to date snowboard girls
sure,
because then I'm on that timeline.
yeah,
Like, oh, let's stay up late on Saturday. Oh, it's going to be a pow day tomorrow, though.
Right.
Yeah, but let's just stay up, and then we'll get there when we get there, which wasn't my MO. It was
Yeah.
like, if it's going to be good, if we built a jump, it's going to be sunny, let's go shoot it. Like, I was hungry. So I intentionally looked for someone that didn't snowboard.
oh, interesting.
But the reason is kind of the same reason I get to celebrate. Like, my son's not snowboarding as much anymore, but he's got this cool passion that he works in film. He's wanted to for a
Right.
really long time.
yeah, right.
And he did his first day on set. It was like 18-hour day.
Oh, wow.
He was so nervous he didn't sleep the night before, right?
Yeah,
And when he was coming home, I was ready to tell him, look, if you hate it, just you got to stick with it.
Right.
Because there were a lot of things working against you on your first day.
sure. The beginning of a lot of things.
He
is
said,
not
I
the
loved it. He said,
funnest time.
He
Oh,
said it was
cool.
the best day of my life, Dad.
Yeah,
And to see him have passion about something I understand nothing about, it really takes the pressure off me. And like
Sure.
you say, I can snowboard. I can snowboard better than him, which is, obviously a point of
Right.
pride when we're up there. I could jive him a little bit, but I know nothing about film, and he knows all this crap. Now he's working in it.
Right.
And I'm proud of him.
No,
It's
for sure.
dope.
For sure. No, and the thing is, I never pushed my kids to snowboard for the same reason that, like, when we started skateboarding in like 1987 or something like that, I guess
Yeah.
it would have been, we started to not be doing the things that our parents were doing, to not do the things that society,
Yes. Yeah.
everything was telling us to do this other thing, play football, be, like whatever.
Homecoming.
Yeah, right.
Picket
It was
fence.
that kind of
Yeah.
classic, Americana bullshit. But and we weren't into it because we saw the hierarchy. The hierarchy wasn't going to work for us. And so we tried to create our own program, and skateboarding was all about that back then.
Totally.
And it was about us finding our own way, making our own community, creating our own rules, and doing something we loved, right?
It was a way of creating a community that wasn't class-driven. Because you couldn't tell where someone was from when they were in the air.
No.
You had no idea.
For sure. And
Yeah.
and with skateboarding, it was, there was plenty of diversity because so much of it happens in urban areas. There was just and nothing mattered. All that mattered was we were all skateboarders. And that was awesome. I met a lot of cool people, made a lot of good friends. The thing with snowboarding for me came directly from skateboarding.
100%.
That was 100% where that relationship came from. And that was where the industry was largely sort of coming from. And so it was the same thing. We were doing it not to do what our dads did, not to do what everyone expected of us. And, to try to flip that. And then I'm going to be the soccer dad with snowboarding where all right, kids, you're going to be, a professional and I'm going to take you here and do this. I want them to want it for themselves.
Yeah.
I want them to do it because they like it.
It's tempting. I remember bringing my kids up and looking and seeing, is there a spark? Are they going to...
Yeah, no. And hey, my 8-year-old's great on skis. I think he's going to snowboard great. My 19-year-old surfs great. He could definitely end up doing something in surfing. But we would bring him out to surf, and I'd try to be do this, and he'd just be "Rah," and growl at me and paddle over and do his own thing. And he would for months, he wouldn't go to the outside. He'd just catch these foam balls over and over and over. And then suddenly he just went out, And then in the end, I'd ride my bike down and my 10-year-old surfing double overhead south swells, at Pleasure Point and on his own. And he found it by himself and he's paved his own way in that. And so I'm proud of him for that. And I don't want it to be something that they just do because I do it. I want them to find their own sort of joy from it. So,
yeah, it's a waste. It's very, very rare that you get a Frank Hawk, Tony Hawk situation. And even when you hear
Tony still, Frank Hawk wasn't a skateboarder.
No,
he just cared about what his kid was into.
Yes.
Said, I'm going to facilitate this.
Yeah.
With me and my kids with snowboarding, it's different because I'm into it and I'm doing it.
Yeah.
And they are too.
Yeah.
And of course, that's great. It means I can I'll take Gus, the 8-year-old, we'll go to Boreal. I'll meet, Corey or, whoever from Tahoe. We'll go ride. We'll ride through the park. Gus stays on, over on the piste off Accelerator there, and he's cruising down. He's so fast. He'll beat us down, but I can see him. He's 30 feet away. I know he's safe. We're riding all the jumps and stuff, and we get to the bottom. I'm a good dad, and I'm doing exactly what I want.
It's the best.
And, what could be better than that?
Watching my kids ride powder, the two of them together, I knew where to take them. I knew the pitch, and just the smiles on their faces.
Yeah,
that was a moment as a dad that I was like, I am so glad that they have the basics to be able to get to this and see what this is.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I had a day with my 19-year-old and some friends last season that was fun to kind of watch them do their thing and then sort of try to one-up everything they did,
You've been that guy the whole way through, right? Because you were you met Chad. Chad was a camper. You were his coach.
Yeah.
And to hear you guys back and forth to this day, it's about it's a little one-upmanship. It's a bit taking the piss out of each other.
We take the piss out of each other, but let me be clear.
Yeah.
Chad has always been better at snowboarding than me.
He's a natural talent.
He always was.
He's an incredible natural talent.
He always will be.
Yeah.
And that's something I became comfortable with a long time ago.
It's
not one-upsmanship with him.
Okay.
I'm constantly trying to earn his approval on the mountain, and off the mountain, I'm constantly trying to promote who I think is one of the coolest people I've ever met. Somebody that's like always been soft-spoken and understated and just been an absolute like A+ person who crushes it.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to say he's never gotten respect because he's an
his
absolute
earned him
icon.
Respect. Yes.
But
yeah.
I think he deserves even more respect than he's ever gotten.
I think he's probably the best definition of snowboarder that there is. Like if you had to put someone in the dictionary for snowboarder, it's Chad Otterstrom.
Absolutely. 46 years old and absolutely crushing it. He'll film me all day.
Yeah.
And I'll be like, sweet, I'm going to get this, I'm going to get that, and we'll do these laps. And then I'll be like, you want to go? And he'll be like, yeah. And then he'll do the same jumps and go like 20 feet farther and just nail everything first try. And it's like, all right, you're still better than me.
He's a legend, man. He's a legend.
But
who's still killing it. That's the best
really
part.
killing it.
Yeah.
Really snowboarding well.
Yeah.
Like better than most.
And so nice.
Anyone.
Like when I went to Breck, he's like, yeah, come stay at my place. He took me up. We went up hiking,
Yep.
Went, jibbed a picnic table. Like it was just, I'm a super fan of snowboarding.
Yeah.
And the fact that I get to do this stuff with you guys now, like here we are at Timberline Lodge. We're riding epic jumps today. It's July 15th.
Right.
It's summer.
It was great today.
The Border Patrol is like, you're going where?
Yeah, right.
Why do you have snowboards on the roof?
Yeah, right.
That which happened in '91 when I crossed the border to fly to Wendell's.
Right.
Was like they tore my car apart on the way back.
Yeah, I bet.
They're like,
did.
why does it smell like that?
Yeah.
I'm a 16-year-old kid with a week-old wet boots.
Yeah, right.
And clothing wasn't waterproof at the time. And a brand new board, anything to declare. Now, I don't, what does even that mean?
Yeah, wet boots.
Yeah, stinky, gross boots that I don't think I'll ride next year.
Yeah, right.
So if you want to throw them out, just throw them out.
Yeah.
But it's life-changing.
Yeah,
And the
absolutely.
trajectory of my life changed when I saw this place.
Yeah.
The forest, the roads, seeing the mountain from the highway.
Mm-hmm.
It's breathtaking.
No, yeah, you come around that corner, you see it for the first time.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's remarkable.
It's crazy. So yeah, our intern Josh is 19 or 20.
Okay.
He's at my son's age actually.
Right.
And I wish my son would want to do what Josh, but Josh has that passion for snowboarding, and he can do the dumb Instagram thing. It's hard for me to do that.
Yeah, I struggle with Instagram, but I get some things on there now.
Well, you got a lot of art on there.
Yeah, I put mostly art on my the permanent stuff, and then I just post all stories of snowboarding.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I don't know. I'll probably do a hard post of snowboarding pretty soon. I'm just waiting for something good enough.
What's going on with your movie? I met the guy. Did you see Ingemar's movie? The Swedish movie, Pinguland?
I saw someone post like a 270 bomb drop that he did off the dam.
Yeah.
And it's like, whatever his Instagram handle is, Gorgonzola or something like that, right?
Yes.
And I am a huge Ingemar Backman fan.
Oh, yeah.
And so I saw that and I was like, wait, what? Like he's doing this?
Yes.
And I commented or I sent him a message or something. And I always knew Ingemar as this pretty quiet dude.
Yes.
And he sent me back this huge, I was so stoked. He was like, yeah, it's good to hear from you, blah, 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 awesome. Whatever. I was really stoked to see all that snowboarding. I haven't seen it as a movie. What I've seen is some sort of, what have I seen? Some reels or something.
And clips. Yeah.
And he looks great, man.
Oh,
his style is right there.
Yes.
And he was always one of the best. And he's he's crisp still.
That's so sick. Yeah, he and Johan own a northern
that's what I heard,
resort in Sweden, Svenstein or something.
Yeah.
And this kid, Abe, that I met today, was on an old Lion. And I'm like, I
saw that board on the chairlift, actually.
Yeah, I said to him, hey, man, where are you from? He's like, Sweden.
Oh.
And then I was like, oh, sick. I do a podcast. And then he had listened to the podcast.
Right.
And then he goes, I did a movie with Ingemar And
So he made
Johan,
that.
He made that.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
And he's sick. He was boosting today.
That guy was,
on
yeah.
that old Ingmar.
On that Lion or whatever?
It's
Right.
so good. Yeah,
Right.
yeah. I mean, remember how stiff those boards were? Did you ever ride one of those?
No.
That was during the M3 time, so you were.
Lion would have been, M3, and then
Yeah.
Atlantis was like, I was on Silence at that point, I think.
Oh yeah,
so.
Silence, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we were talking Silence with Vile because.
Oh yeah, because that's
he was
where
on Silence, right?
Yeah,
That's
Vile
where
rode for Silence when I did, and he used to.
Did you put him on the team? Did you?
I
notice
didn't
that
put him
guy?
on the team. Ami did that, but
Mhm.
when he came to the States, I was definitely a fan.
Yeah.
And I thought he just had the best style, so he lived at my house with me in Squaw, and
Sick.
I tried to get him hooked up with Mac Dog, got him on Planet Earth for a while.
Oh, dope.
Yeah, I would definitely, there were a few kids, him and Scotty and a couple others that I definitely advocated for. Chad, obviously,
Yeah.
you know.
You became an advocate for others young because for some reason you had decided that you were going to quit when you were 24 or something.
No,
That was crazy.
I didn't quit. I mean, 24 is when I started M3, I think, or maybe 25. And I think 25 is when I filmed the part for Revival,
Sick.
which was definitely my best video part.
Hell yeah.
But
Hell yeah.
I didn't quit, but it just, I don't know. I just always wanted to connect things. And if I saw a rider that I thought was good, I was going to put him on a company that I was part of, or, try and hook him up with a filmer that I thought was a good spot for them. And I don't know why, but that's always just been a kind of natural inclination for me.
It's community.
So,
It's
that's part of
community
it.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, I still like doing that. So
That's rad.
That
That is so rad. I'm so stoked that you're back at it. Let's talk about your camps.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So what is Blaise Boot Camp?
So, well, first of all, the name comes from Corey Smith. And that's from I'll drive up to Tahoe and I want to go snowboard, and Corey will come out and we'll get to the mountain at 10. We'll ride for a couple hours. Corey will be like, okay, that was fun. Let's go get a beer, And I'm like, what are you talking about? It's noon. Let's go snowboard some more. And he's like, all right, whatever. And then we'll snowboard a little more. And then he'll be like, all right, let's go get a beer. Let's go have something to eat, whatever. And I'm like, no, come on, we're snowboarding. He's like, well, when are we going to stop? And I'm like, what do you mean? When the chairs close, right? And he's like, it's fucking Blaise Boot Camp around here. So Blaise Boot Camp comes from Corey.
I love it.
Just putting up with me being eager and wanting to snowboard as much as possible. And, then from that point, that's the name, but the actual camp itself came from going to Bear Valley with Andy Blumberg, who used to be the editor of Transworld and Blunt before that, who I've known for years and years, a really close friend. And we went to Bear, he would kind of line up these things. He took, part of the reason I started snowboarding a bunch again was he took me to Mount Shasta. Maybe I've talked about this before, I don't know, but.
I don't know.
And we just had a really good time. I hadn't really snowboarded at all. And he's like, come, I want you to go here. I've wanted you to go here for years. I'm taking you. And I'm like, it's 7 hours away.
Wow.
But I finally agreed, and we went. And there was something about riding in a place where there was no scene that I was just free to cruise around and feel my way through it, not feel like anyone was looking at me or cared about anything I was doing or anything, and just commune with the mountain itself and the environment. And it was so fun. I was like, why am I not doing this, And so we went up to, then we went to Tahoe and started riding a bunch more there. That's when Corey started giving me spring break boards.
Dope.
Right around then, too. And I was like, oh, and now I'm a part of something. I'm doing something I love. I love this feeling of being a part of something. That was what was so cool about snowboarding. Anyway, so Andy and I, a couple years ago went to Bear Valley, which is where I grew up snowboarding. And he had lined up for us to go and do a bunch of stuff for Instagram for spring break. And he had gotten us tickets, and they were super generous with, everything. And we go and we hang out with these guys, and we're riding, and everyone's super nice and happy to have us. And we're meeting everybody, the marketing people, the ski school people. Everyone's just coming out to ride with us.
Right.
We're riding around, and I guess I have a tendency to sort of be like, hey, you should jump off that thing. I bet you could do a frontside 180 off that, in fact. And I can be a little pushy about it, apparently. Andy says it's I'm annoying in a pleasant way, I guess, or
Sweet.
maybe a positive way. But so we're riding around. We're riding with like 15 people, just crushing this mountain, having so much fun. And we're just like, we should bring people here. We should do a camp. And so that's where the whole idea came from. And it took like about a year to sort of manifest that. And
wow.
We brought in Dylan Hopkins, who manages the adult camp for High Cascade here, where I'm working now.
Yeah.
And so he helps like the logistics. Andy, like I kind of was really clear in the beginning, and I specifically said, I don't want to be Tim Wendell. I don't want to run a snowboard camp. I don't want a snowboard camp named after me.
Right.
What I want to do is I want to ride with people. I want to share snowboarding with them, share the place I love with them, and have a really good time doing it. And until the bitter end, I fought Andy on the title. I was like, boot camp is enough. And he's like, nope, it's going to have your name on it. And he did all the work. He curates everything. So like all the guests, we had Pat Bridges do a fireside chat. We had Dave Cioni come out and shred with us.
Whoa.
Next year we have Pat doing a clinic, how to ride like Pat Bridges. We have Chris Roach is going to come do a Butters with Chris Roach clinic. Like all of this is Andy. I don't do any of this.
I got to get a spot at the Roach one, man.
You got to come down.
Yeah.
So like he does all of it. He sets it all up. And Dylan, he's the curatorial, the sort of creative director, I guess. We don't have titles.
Sure.
But Dylan manages logistics and knows how to like take care of stuff and get all that stuff done.
Did he cut his teeth at We Are Camp or whatever?
Yeah. Dylan's been making the adult camp run for a few years now.
Rad.
And so
we met some of your campers today.
Yeah.
On Hill.
Yeah.
And they were ripping.
Yeah. They're great, man.
Yeah.
They're great people to ride with. I love all the people we meet up here. And
That's so
fun to go ride with them. And it's just snowboarding. We just go ride and have fun. And that's all boot camp really is. Like,
yeah.
But we have some rules, and you don't have to follow them. One, like me and my 8-year-old say, breaks are for snakes.
Nice.
So we don't stop.
All
Nobody
right.
eats lunch. And people, of course, stop and eat lunch, but I don't eat lunch.
Right.
And we ride from as soon as we get to the mountain, which is usually around 9:30, and we ride till they close it. And then at the end of the day, we ride down to the hotel from the mountain.
Nice.
Because there's this run. And as soon as we get there, we crack a beer that we keep in our backpack and enjoy, hanging out. But so, yeah, I don't know. It's a lot to talk about, but and I'm probably meandering. But so, yeah, Andy and Dylan put it together, and I am sort of the on-hill, whatever it is that I do.
It's so great to see you light up. That you're back in the industry. It's incredible.
I will say this. I told Andy, like, I do not want this to be my name,
Mm-hmm.
and he insisted. And I said, you know what? Fine. You have executive privilege. Do whatever you want.
Sure.
He did all the graphics. He made all the soft goods. He did everything. We showed up. Camp was great. I was like, this is my camp. I'm so stoked my name is on this. So it was kind of ironic because yep. And I would walk around and there's a line in Fight Club, and when they get the guys bust into the place where they're fighting and the big guys there and they're like, what are you guys doing here? And he's like, well, who the fuck are you? And he goes, that sign on the top that says Lou's? I'm fucking Lou, something along those lines, something like that. And I loved walking around. I just kept saying, I'm fucking Lou, and so,
that's killer.
Yeah. I mean, but it was really fun. It was just great to have people out there. The locals, the mountain staff there are so accommodating. And the mountain itself is just incredible. There's a lot of steep terrain. Pat Bridges kept saying, like, man, they should think about having a natural selection, stop here. Like,
wow.
This is an unknown spot.
I'm pretty sure
incredible.
I flew over it.
You probably have.
And the lake looks like a bear. Like the lake is
maybe, I don't know.
Bear Lake is shaped like a bear.
Yeah, I don't actually know.
And then there's ski resorts kind of all around it.
That might be something else.
Okay.
I don't know. This is actually right across this huge river canyon from Kirkwood.
Okay.
You can see part of Kirkwood from Bear Valley and vice versa.
Huh.
And it's just kind of classic Northern California, steep terrain, good couloirs, and like
sick.
granite blocky, like drops and and they have a fun little park that we cruise a bunch, and there's a backside with a bunch of trees, and
Tahoe's amazing.
yeah,
Unbelievable.
This is kind of, it's not quite Tahoe, because if Kirkwood's like South Lake Tahoe,
Yeah.
this is south of that, so we're getting into Central Sierras, but
Yeah.
it's beautiful, man, and we had a really good time, so I can't wait to do it again.
Congrats, dude. That's
Yeah.
dope. It's
Yeah.
and it sounds like, one of those things that's not forced. It's organic.
It's super organic. Yeah.
You know how to coach. You've been coaching.
I know how to ride
since
with people
forever.
and
You know how
try
to
to
ride.
encourage them to do
Yeah.
stuff they might not quite think they can do.
Right.
And I certainly know how to try to show off. Like I'm not above that. And
But
so,
you need that too. Like that's the thing. You
I
need
want to
that.
lead by example. I don't want to be a coach that sits on the side of a half pipe, on one knee with my arms crossed and
Right.
watching some 14-year-old try a quadruple cork and trying to get him an energy drink sponsor and
Right.
all that bullshit, because it's not what I like about snowboarding.
Right.
I like sharing it with cool people and having a good time, and that's what I want to do.
I noticed it at camp because we're staying at High Cascade.
Yeah.
And it reminded me, triggered a memory from when I was a little kid, went to camp. One of the things you're doing as a camper is looking around and seeing adults that you aspire to be like.
Yeah, for sure.
You're learning, they don't tuck their pants into their boots.
Right,
and tie
sure.
their boots around
right.
their pants.
Although some of them do these
Sure,
days.
now they
apparently.
might.
It
Right,
be
right.
I have seen that as the trend, but yeah, no, I know what you mean, right.
But yeah, I'm coming from Sudbury, Ontario, the middle of absolute nowhere, with nobody but the videos to look up
Right.
to. And then all of a sudden there's Scott Downey, there's Kevin Delaney, there's Tim Windell, there's these
Yeah, right.
Colorado legends for me.
Right.
And then you get on the hill and you go, holy shit, there's Roach, there's,
Yeah, right.
like, oh my God.
Yeah, then your mind's really blown.
Yeah, it was the first scanners were over, so there was Red
Mm-hmm.
Lamb, but there was also Bertrand and Bertie and Camille Brichet.
Oh, remember, yeah.
And it
remember
was
those shots,
insane,
like
dude.
maybe in a fall line video or something like that, of
would've-
those guys riding Santa Cruz boards.
It
in
would
the
have
pipe,
even
right?
been a Mac Dog, early Mac Dog.
Mac Dog.
Up
Okay,
here
yeah, maybe
in
yeah.
the pipe. Those guys
time
just
ago.
dominating.
Right.
Yeah, which made those crappy boards really popular.
Yeah. Well, I it's my first sponsor, so.
Was Santa Cruz.
Yeah,
Was
yeah.
Corey there at that point? Corey
No,
Octoon? He
I
was
rode
way
for
later.
Joel Gomez.
For Joel.
Yeah, but really I
Sessions.
rode for Bob Klein. Is
Yeah.
really who he was the rep, and he gave me a board.
I've been reaching
put
out
me
to
on.
Bob this year to talk to him. Have you seen his podcasting, the Snowboard Show? Or
I
whatever?
haven't, no.
Okay.
I haven't spoken to him in years, but
Yeah.
whenever I have spoken to him, it's always been a pleasure. So.
Yeah. I heard him on a podcast or something talking about he was just an affluent kid. He actually bought his way onto the Burton team.
Yeah, he's told me that story.
Yeah, because
right.
Jake was making boards for team riders only, basically,
Right.
prototypes. And Bob was like, well, how much? Just tell me how
Right.
much. I'll get my dad to buy it
Right.
for me. And then at some thing, he had bought his board and he was going to win or get third, whatever.
Yeah, right.
And then Jake is like, hey, put on the Burton bib. And he goes, am I on the team?
Yeah,
like I
right,
bought my
right.
own board.
Huh.
There's no way I'm doing
Yeah.
this without you saying I'm on this team.
Right,
man.
right.
And I love that story
Yeah.
because he cared about it as much as we did.
Oh,
He
no,
had-
for sure.
He had a little more,
Resources.
resources.
Well, luckily he
Sure.
trickled down. He gave me a board, and I was not an affluent kid. So
There you
when
go.
he gave me that board, I remember we were riding up the chair, and it was a demo, and I was there with a shop owner that I worked for, and he was like, "What'd you pay for that board you're on?" I was like, "Oh, whatever. I got a pro for him." And he was like, "Shouldn't have to pay for a board." And my mind just went like, "I know what he's getting at, but I'm gonna play dumb." And I was like, "Well, I have to pay for a board if I want one, right?" And he said, "I'll give you a board." And I was like, "Ding, ding, 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 ding! I'm sponsored.
Yes.
This is it, you
Yeah,
know."
yeah.
And so, yeah, thank you, Bob.
What was that board? Was it a towel?
He gave
or
me a towel, which I
Yeah.
turned around backwards so that
Yeah.
I could ride the wider stance.
Hey,
Because
nice.
otherwise, it was like a 17-inch stance
Yes.
that you had to ride with 40 degrees on the front foot and 20 degrees on the back. But if you flipped it around, you sort of rode both the front feet. You
Yeah.
could you know what I mean? You could
Oh, yeah.
ride this
Yeah.
totally symmetrical duck-footed stance.
I
back
had a
then.
Delta, yeah, so it was
Yeah.
the same deal.
Yeah.
The other thing about riding those asymmetrical boards, because it's only asymmetrical side cut,
Right.
the deeper side cut on the toe side gave you a hookier board.
Yeah.
And then if you're just floating on your heel side, traversing or something, it was easier to ride.
Honestly, we were like, back then I drug my board through the parking lot. We were skateboard ratty little, you know, like I bonked it on it. I just nose bonked everything. I rode over it. Yeah, right. It didn't matter how it performed.
The rocks up here, I hit a rock up here today on a board. So the board I'm riding is made with wood that we got from Mount Seymour.
Oh, wow.
From a fallen tree on Mount Seymour.
Oh, that's cool.
So I want to keep that board for the rest of my life. But then the rocks up here just sticking out of the snow are just too, even though they look so sharp and tear things apart.
I beat up boards a little bit, and Corey's always like, dude, like he really cares about the boards.
Yeah, of course.
So he's like, dude, it's like, yeah, but you don't want me not going for it, right?
So this is going to come out midwinter. So we got a lot of time here.
Okay.
Can we announce the board?
My board?
Yeah.
Who told you about that?
I
showed you a picture.
Yeah, you showed it to me.
I mean, he had talked about like a limited edition board.
Yeah.
And I did a graphic. I had a friend help me.
Sick.
Someone I've known a long time named Andy Rosenthal. No relation other than we're all related at some point, right?
Sure.
And he helped me out and presented it. And I don't know, Corey came over and was like, look, we thought it was going to be a limited edition, blue, and another dude, I think Ephraim, he said, really liked the graphic, and we all just decided, like, it's just going to be your board. So all the sizes and, you know.
Congrats, dude.
Thank you. And that I'll do the graphic. Now, that being said, till I have one of those things in my hand.
Of course.
I don't believe anything.
Shit changes.
So
shit changes. It does.
I really want, I don't want to jinx it.
Yeah.
I don't want to do anything to jeopardize it.
Well, I'll be checking with you.
I'm really grateful to those guys for believing in me in that way. And it's, I mean, the way my career went and sort of concluded with M3 sort of falling apart and feeling like I left snowboarding with my tail between my legs kind of a bit, it really makes things, you know, it brings things full circle in a way that is really important to me. I've spent the last 4 years sort of focused on this goal, and that it might actually happen, it means everything to me right now. So, yeah.
That's fucking awesome.
I don't want to fuck it up.
We just did an hour.
All right.
Thank you very much, Blaise. And we'll do another hour another time. You're an absolutely incredible guest. Your passion for snowboarding is inspiring.
Thanks for
it's awesome,
for saying
dude.
so. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, big fan. Like Jenna was saying in the car, you know, like those seminal parts, those videos, Simple Pleasures, like on repeat, right?
Yeah.
Like,
we watched it recently. We did a video premiere, boot camp kind of pop-up video premiere at High Cascade. It was great to see it.
Sick. Yeah. It's so good.
I hadn't seen it in a while.
Yeah, Peter's personality there starts shining, hey? Like his
writing is
unmatched.
Yep.
Is Simple Pleasures the year that they also did the 4 Trans World things, or it's a year after, I think?
The Trans World, the video mags?
Yeah.
I think it was before that, actually. Yeah, no, I think it was like 2 years before that.
Oh, wow.
I have the first part in the very first Trans World video mag.
Oh, sick.
By Mac Dog.
Yeah.
That was like, he literally gave me that was like the beginning of my career. Like had a Flow Santa Cruz board. They gave me a Santa, that was it. I had nothing, you know.
It was and long before that.
Yeah.
So that's 2 years or something.
2 or 3 years, yeah. It was like Meltdown Project would have been like the next year maybe or something. But
Oh, yeah, I forget how,
everything's so condensed back then. It happened all so fast.
Yeah.
Now I think of Capita, which has like been around for like 20 years.
Yeah.
As this new cool company, and it's like it's 20 years old.
Yeah, totally.
But it seems like a new cool company,
I'm
and
still
like
stuck in that too. Like,
right.
Like I miss you know what? We still have them. Snowboarding still has those personalities. There's just a whole bunch of other stuff going on too.
Yeah.
Like that Fridge kid.
I don't know.
He rides with a backpack and he's.
Oh, I've seen that dude.
Oh, he shreds, dude. He's so good.
Yeah, no.
And he's doing it for a gimmick. You know, he's a Palmer or something. You know, shaving his head. And we were just at Bud Fawcett's looking at all those. Bud was a huge Palmer fan, so like he was constantly looking for trips to go on with Palmer, and there's a lot of like kind of unseen stuff even that Bud's got. It's nuts. He just posted yesterday, because I was like pushing him like, oh my God, a picture of Jake Burton in the air dropping off a cornice.
Yeah,
it's got to be. I don't think it's less than 15 feet, like which is huge for Jake.
Yeah,
I don't
right.
think I've ever seen him in the air.
Right, no,
There's no
not much.
pictures of Jake in a half pipe. There's no
Yeah.
pictures of Jake going off a jump. And this is a drop. And the thing about a Bud Fawcett photo is that the face says more than, like, the body's in good position.
Sure.
But you can see in Jake's face that he's literally doing something that's taking everything.
Yeah.
That he's not thinking about dinner. He's concentrating on the boilerplate landing under this 15-foot cornice.
Right.
But, I was saying to Bud, like, sell that to Burton. Mine 77 needs a Jake air shot, obviously. Right. But, yeah, I don't know where I was going with that weird tangent. But
it's an interesting one, though.
That we still have those. We do still have those characters in snowboarding. Yeah. It's just watered down a bit.
There's more snowboarders.
Yeah.
The culture has homogenized to some extent, but I actually think we're in a really creative time in snowboarding. I see a lot of, I think, contest-wise, and I want to be critical because I almost don't really know that much about it because I don't follow it, but I'm just not interested in it. I see the stuff and it just looks boring. But as far as as far as just kind of what I think of as real snowboarding, there's kind of some good diversity happening and a lot more different styles and different approaches happening, which I think is really good. I want to see different stuff. So I think it's healthier than it was. And I hope it's on track to become even healthier.
I think it is.
Yeah, I think so too.
Right on, buddy. Let's go get, let's beat last call at Charlie's.
Let's do it.
FNRad shoutouts this week to Blaise Rosenthal. Thanks for doing the show, man. Special thanks to Blaze Boot Camp, Spring Break Snowboards, Union Bindings, Cole Headwear, and Air Blaster. Extra special thanks to Rob Dow and intern Josh, and thanks to all of you who've listened right to the end. Please like, follow, and share the FNRad Snowboard Podcast, which is presented by Vans and brought to you by SIA Productions.